All right, so we're talking about buying a home. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to do is establish whether or not buying a home is right for you, and we're going to start with looking at the financial side of it. A lot of people don't realize how much actually goes into purchasing a home. So the first thing we're going to look at is the actual cost, the upfront cash needed to buy a home. The second thing that we're going to look at is the maintenance costs, which is an ongoing thing that a lot of people really don't prepare for. For example, a roof is a big thing that you're going to need to do every 10 to 15, 20, 30, 50 years, depending on the type of roof that you get. And then the last thing is the actual operating costs, the ongoing operating costs. So this will include everything from servicing debt, your mortgage, insurance, heat, hydro, and etc. Let's jump in.
Okay, so we're looking at the upfront costs of buying into the market, owning a home. So in this scenario, we're looking at a $750,000 home. If you're in my neck of the woods, the Guelph, Ontario, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Fergus area, essentially West Toronto, West GTA. That's kind of the average price right now. So what we're going to look at is everything that goes into that upfront cost, the cash that you need upfront to be able to buy in the scenario of a $750,000 house. So this is the spreadsheet that I normally use to calculate return on investment. It's just a really quick one so we can do some quick and dirty math when we're analyzing a property. Here we're just going to be looking at what's the cash that we need to buy in at that price range. So we're looking at roughly, if we're going in with a smaller down payment, about $55,000 down. A land transfer tax, assuming that there's at least one first-time home buyer in there, of about $7,500. Legal costs, we're looking at about $1,500, and then there's always some sort of repair or upgrade that needs to happen when you first move in the house. No matter how turnkey something looks, there's always something. Sometimes it's something as small as when you first move in, there's no window covering on a certain window, and then you've got this street light beaming in, getting right at your eyes. You can't sleep or you can't watch TV or anything like that because it's just creating a huge glare, or you just can't seem to get any rest because it's waking you up all the time. Anything from that to maybe the latch on the dishwasher doesn't close properly, and you have to call in a repair person to do that, and that costs you $400. So there's always something that happens. So I always recommend people have a few $1,000s set aside whenever they're purchasing a home, because again, it's just Murphy's Law. If it can happen, it will. So just using that math, we're looking at about a $65,000 upfront cost. That's the cash that you're going to need to close on that property. Again, this is just quick and dirty math. It's giving us a ballpark range of what you would need to close on a $750,000 house in Ontario right now. Next thing we're going to look at is step 2. We're going to start to look at the monthly maintenance costs. Okay, so here we are looking at the maintenance costs of owning a home. So what I do to help people better understand what it looks like to own a home and what the costs are, rather than thinking every once in a while you're going to get slammed with a $9,000 or $10,000 bill to redo your roof, to upgrade your HVAC, to do the kitchen renovations, things like that. If we just look at what's the average lifespan of things and we amortize that, the cost of maintaining it over its lifespan, we can kind of get an idea of what the monthly cost would look like when we average everything out over the length of time that you're going to own your home. So everything that I did here was I'm going to say modest conservative. So we're not looking at high-end stainless steel appliances or anything like that. We're not looking at high-end aluminum roofs or ceramic or anything like that. Everything's laminate floors. You could make a nice home, but it's definitely more conservative and on the lower end side. So the first one that I'll kind of explain to you is, so you understand a little bit better, is the roof. So this is looking at roughly a 1,200 square foot area that we would need to do at $6 a square foot. Again, that's a fairly conservative price there. That works out to $7,200 for you to do the roof. So if you buy a small little bungalow or a little 2-story with about 1,200 square feet of roof, that's roughly what you're looking at. Now, you might have to buy 25-year shingles in order to actually get a 15-year lifespan, depending on where you are. In Canada, the winter tends to be a little bit harder on our roof. Also, shade and things like that can really affect the lifespan of your roof. So if we simply look at, okay, we're going to get 15 years out of these shingles, it's going to cost us roughly $7,200. That works out to just under $500 a year, about $40 a month. So if we're looking to set aside money all the time so that we can make sure that we always have the cash to do things, we're going to have to be allocating about $40 a month just for our roof. Hot water heater, it's my experience that the vast majority of people tend to rent their hot water heaters. It seems to be very normal. $25 a month is what you're looking at there, $300 a year just to have the rental. Then we start getting into kitchen appliances. I was very conservative here at $5,500, and that you'd get 15 years there. So that might be some older used models where you get them repaired to maintain them to get the full 15 years out of them, but it only costs you $5,500 every 15 years. Obviously, you can go and spend $5,500 on just the fridge, and that number can dramatically increase from there. So just looking at the more conservative approach there, we're looking at, $350 to $400 per month, roughly $30, $35 per year. And you can see, it goes all the way down through laundry, your driveway, parking, HVAC. So that includes, air conditioner, furnace, flooring. And we just did it at $6 a square foot. So you can definitely get it done cheaper than that if you're buying, $2 per square foot laminate and you're doing the install yourself. But if you're buying cheaper laminate and having somebody else do the install, obviously that would be closer to the $6 per square foot. Or obviously you could spend dramatically more than that to buy a much nicer floor and have somebody else install it. Plumbing, the reality is you're going to end up paying to fix plumbing here and there. We got $5,000 every 20 years. Windows are in there. You get about a 30-year life cycle from a lot of windows. Paint every 5 years just to touch up, keep things fresh, keep things going. It's about $3 per square foot. Then we have countertops, cabinets, again, because if you don't replace this stuff at some point, it's actually not really helping your property appreciate. So some people will repair some of the stuff or upgrade this stuff too often, and they also spend a ton doing it, so they actually don't get the full return on investment. This is just to kind of maintain your investment in your home. And again, it's all modest pricing. Cabinets and countertops, $10,000 is not a crazy kitchen renovation at all. That might be a blend of IKEA discount countertop, pulling 20 years out of it. There might be a lot of paint involved in that as well. Okay, then we have structural stuff. Every 50 years, there'll probably be something that happens. Gardening, a lot of people don't realize it. I probably undershot gardening here dramatically. It's pretty easy to spend $300 just on topsoil, depending on how elaborate your gardening is, or $300 just on mulch. I can say, this year alone, I spent $300 on mulch. So that's a modest price there at only $300 per year. And then we get into some of the miscellaneous stuff, like, do you have a garage door? I don't have a price in there for a garage door, but there might be some maintenance involved around that. Landscaping, so that's just, if it's simply just owning a lawnmower and a weed trimmer, they're looking at $400 every 10 years just to kind of maintain those. Winter maintenance, if it's simply just a salt and shovel, you can end up spending $100 a year on that. A water softener, if it's a rental or if it's owned. Let's assume that there's no septic tank and septic bed or other costs because it's not a rural property. Let's say it's a municipal property with municipal water. So just for this example, for this modest $750,000 house where we're being a lot more modest with the upgrades and the maintenance things that we're choosing, we're looking at about a $5,000 cost per year, just over $400 per month in maintenance and capital expenditures to maintain this property. The next thing we're going to look at is how this breaks down into a full look at full ownership costs, and we're going to start to include things like the mortgage, insurance, heat, and hydro. Okay, final step here. Let's take everything, put it together, add in our mortgage, taxes, insurance, heat, hydro, and see what it shakes out to. So we've already determined here that we have our maintenance and capital expenditures sitting around $5,000 per year, about $400 per month. We're looking in this scenario, it's not a condo, it's not a rural property, so it's a little more simple. It's got municipal services. So down here we have our heating, our natural gas, hydro, and water. So we've got both those coming in for our yearly and monthly costs. Now we've also added in either life or creditor insurance that you'll need for your mortgage. Obviously, if you want to talk about that a little bit more, feel free to shoot me a message. We'll get into that a little bit later when we start talking about closing. We have the actual home insurance here at $40 a month. We have our taxes sitting at $3,500 a year, just under $300 a month, and we have our full mortgage, factoring in our down payment. This is at a 2%. At this time, 2% seems to be fairly attainable for most people. So we have our mortgage sitting in here at just over $3,000 a month. So when we take that mortgage, we add in our property taxes, we add in the insurance, we factor in an average monthly cost of $400 in maintenance and capital expenditures. Then we toss in our heat, our hydro. We're essentially looking at about just over $4,000 per month monthly cost of home ownership in this scenario for the $750,000 home, with the upfront cost of $65,000 to get in. So that's the cost of owning this home in this scenario. The rule of thumb seems to be for a lot of the average houses, at least in my area. Again, that's Ontario, Guelph, Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, Elmira, Fergus, Rockwood, that whole area, West GTA, about an hour west of the GTA, Toronto. It's about $1,000 a month extra for the average house. So don't simply just look at it and say, oh, the mortgage is this, we can totally afford that. Just know that there's probably an extra $1,000 in there per month that you're not factoring in because you're missing a few things. Now, I could have just told you that rule of thumb from the start, saved you a ton of time, but then you would have missed out on what really makes it a rule of thumb and how we get to that number.